Riverside.
Hello and welcome back to TheSadFan, where I was not expecting Wes to adjust his camera mid-theme, but if you're watching on YouTube, you got to see Wes's nipples. You're welcome.
I mean, I could do a topless show if you want.
No one's asking for that.
No one is asking for that. If you want to see that, go watch Wes run one of his triathlons where, for some reason, they say it's because it's hard to get the wetsuit off, but they just love to tie them around their waist when they get done with the swim and get on those bicycles. We'll just have to take their word for it. Now, what it is hard for people to do is accept that we have amazing women that carry a sport because they are advocates, because they are fighters, and because they're ambassadors of the game to other countries. And that's one of the reasons why these other countries have been so great in this year's World Cup. They were eliminated by Sweden. They dominated the entire game. And I think it came down to coaching, and a lot of people hate that I'm about to say that, but I do think it came down to coaching. And why do well, I think not a lot of people, I think we were talking about this earlier, a very small sect of people hate it because they are pioneers for equal pay. They are pioneers for equality. And this very small sect could not wait to come from the woodwork and trash the women. And they had to wait 12 years to do it. Go ahead, Chelsea.
I'm sorry, this is so frustrating, and I know this isn't exactly what we want to focus on, when we're talking about the women's team. But the fact is that women in sports have been far more open and transparent about things like social justice and being gay. Like, how many WNBA players can you name who are openly out and proud and they're happy to show off their partners? Now, how many in the NFL? Why? Statistically, we know that there are
not even
more.
One anymore.
I thought it was a coach.
Is there a coach in the NFL?
Coach. Yes, there is.
Did I miss it?
Just came out within the last 2 weeks, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, something like that.
But women have been very vocal. Maybe it's just the difference between, women and men, but like they've also been advocates for racial justice, for equal pay, for all of these things that certain segments of the population just do not want to get on board with.
Yeah.
And it is very frustrating and very unfair that the men's leagues have not taken those steps, that they haven't started putting that on display on an even bigger stage, because let's be honest, men's soccer is watched by more people. Football is watched by more people. Where is the conversation in men's sports about being authentic and loving people where they are? Like, why is our national conversation reduced to she has blue hair and she's a lesbian, that means she's bad?
Or when did fighting for your freedoms become anti-American?
That as well. Thank you.
It's very odd, because fighting for freedoms, fighting for pay, doing a lot of we left because we didn't want religious persecution, if we boil it down, and then everybody has their own reasons they make up. But the reason we were all taught when we were in grade school, before Ron DeSantis changed curriculum, was that they were trying to escape religious persecution. We fought a Revolutionary War so we could keep more of our money and not send it to England. So I'm just here like, okay, so they're fighting to not be persecuted for their lifestyle. They're fighting for more money, or to get more money for playing for the United States of America. And I struggle to find the anti-American sentiments in this.
Like, okay, because it doesn't agree with them.
I don't know. And the one thing that I want to say, without totally getting into politics, is that being critical of America is the most patriotic thing that you can do. If you can say, I love this country so much that I would like to posit that these ways are the ways that we can be even better, and we can strive for even higher greatness, that is a very patriotic thing to do.
Yeah.
Even if you don't agree with it, just speaking out about it and saying what's on your heart and trying to advocate for people who aren't as well off as you is the most American thing you can do. So,
yeah, and I'm gonna quote some. So I say this all the time. So I hate that I'm about to quote this because I teach this in my classes. If you want change, you have to understand being a pioneer sucks. You're not celebrated till you're dead or you're on your deathbed for all the things that you were able to accomplish or get done. So
sure.
understand that if you want real change, you actually have to accept that your life is going to suck for a bit. Or you're going to have people that agree with you but are so afraid of going against the status quo that they will only whisper, hey, good job.
Mm-hmm.
People are going to hate you.
Yeah, people
or
will hate you. Or they're
going to try to kill you.
Or they'll try to kill you. Or they'll succeed if you go all the way back in our history. So,
yeah,
that in mind, I watched the game against Sweden. I was very excited for the game. I actually watched it from my desk. I had it on the side playing in the background while I was working. And I swear they dominated this game because every 5 or so minutes, I would look over and they'd have the ball in Sweden's back half and they'd be controlling. And the same thing we've been saying for the last 2 weeks, they just couldn't score goals. They just couldn't put the ball in the back of the net. Also, the coach, terrible substitutions at terrible times. You're about to go to a penalty shootout and you substitute 2 people in with 2 minutes left. You're putting in you're putting in 2 players cold for a shootout. It's ridiculous. Now, Megan Rapinoe, we would not have won the first 2 World Cups without her. It was a mistake to put her in this game. You could see it from the offset. She missed. There was a chance that I want to say who was it that someone crossed it into her, and I can't remember the player that crossed it into her. It was a perfect cross, and she overran the ball, and she had to stop, and she played it off her body, but she played it off her body so hard it went out of bounds for a goal kick. All right, then let's fast forward to the shootout. She has been our penalty taker for almost her entire career. I would say 12, 13 years. She's been the United States penalty taker. She missed the kick. And her biggest sin there was she laughed. And even me, in the moment, I was like, that's a bad look. I wouldn't smile there. And she explained it later. She was like, it was like a dark comedy that this is how my career is going to end. And that's all I could think about. And she's like, obviously she cares. She came back for a World Cup. She didn't have to. She didn't have to be a part of this team. Right, she could have retired like Carly Lloyd, like Christina Press, but she came back to play with these women to try to get one more World Cup to help the United States lift up. She missed. I get it. She should have been in the game. Is my takeaway, to be quite frank. Go ahead, Chelsea.
Let me just be like, I have to kind of like disagree a little bit. I think that laughter in one of the most frustrating, humiliating, absolutely just unbelievable, like you're in shock, like that this happened kind of moments is a very natural response. It's not a socially accepted good one. But I mean, I have found through personal experience that my way of dealing with death and grief is very dark, very unhinged at the time humor. And nobody around me likes it. My brother can probably attest to this. It is just not funny. And yet I can't stop myself. Like, it's not like I'm just sitting there cracking up or anything like that. But I still kind of understand that, like, you can't change what already happened. So what are you going to do? You're going to cry about it or laugh about it. You've got really 2 options. Sometimes just laugh.
Yeah, and to be clear, I said it wasn't a good look. I didn't say I didn't, especially after she explained what she was going through. To a worldwide audience, when you know everyone's watching, unfortunately, sometimes you just gotta understand that everyone's watching. Everything you do is going to be aggregated. Every single thing you do. Wes, what were you going to say there?
I was going to say it's, basically what Chelsea said. It's a very human response. But yeah, not everyone's going to take it the same way.
Yeah.
And especially when you have people looking at you who don't like what you're doing, they're going to pick everything you do apart.
You have to understand that. You have to understand your position here, right?
Right, but
no matter how tough and strong you are.
Like, so, I mean, her whole entire job is for, like, and for all of the players, is for 90 minutes plus plenty of extra minutes, is to absolutely tune out and forget that everyone's watching it's really easy to make a lapse like that.
There's a lot of variables because I'm going to retort with it's also composure for 90 minutes. So
that's true.
So in that moment, you're right. There's 10,000 things going through your head. I would just say right there, and again, she's laughing because she knows it's over. I said it was over. I was like, well, that's it. Like that's the game. They had it won. They were winning on penalty kicks. They had two saves. If you watch on how they lost, she saved they had one that sailed over the net, and then their keeper made another save. But then she made a save at the end, and the only reason that they lost there was because a VAR overturned it. They said the ball hit the line or was just over the line. Now, this World Cup was honestly, it was determined by the coach's inability to trust younger players, right? That's the story that will be written from this World Cup, because he continued to sub on more veteran players, but Sanchez never saw the pitch. Sanchez is one of our best young midfielders, right? We lost Mallory Swanson to an ACL injury prior to the World Cup. Trinity Rodman didn't get the touches she deserved. They weren't coached to play like a team. They were coached to play like individuals. It was rough, but Sophia Smith was shining, and then Sophia Smith sailed her penalty kick over. And that's the player that you see a lot of the players on the USA team consoling after the game because she broke down. Because I could see it. She had a chance to win the World Cup for her squad, right?
Yeah.
And she sailed the ball. It was rough. It was a rough watch. The world is celebrating, but the world wouldn't be where it is, without the U.S. women's team. And that's important to understand. And I think it's important for America to understand, hey, you can't just pick and choose. If you love a winner, these women were the most dominant international sports team the United States has ever had. We've never had a more dominant international sports team. You could say the USA men in basketball, but guess what? Even they took third place in the early 2000s, and we had to put together the Redeem team. So don't cherry pick, right? Yeah. We have dominated soccer since the 90s on the women's side, and it hasn't been particularly close. I mean, we've had close calls, but our women have always been considered far and away the best. And right now, they do have a very great young core, and they have a path back to greatness and to another World Cup championship. It's just not going to be for a while. So really disappointed to see the reaction. Lucy Rodin of the Dan Le Batard Show said that she was fully expecting this to happen. And they said, well, why would you fully expect this to happen? And her response was, because people love to shit on women.
I don't disagree, unfortunately.
Yeah. It was sad to see. I was like, well, it was literally my response was, well, it was a good 12 years.
A certain segment like to shit on outspoken women.
But I do want to thank all the women for the last 12 years. Here's to the next 4. We'll see where we can get. But 2 World Cup championships in a row. We said last week, a three-peat is so hard to do. And this is over the course of 12 years. These women are aging 12 years during the course of these championships. So to everybody that is taking a victory lap, you're the loser here. You're the loser here. On to conference realignment and college football. All right.
Do we have to?
Well, it finally happened. It finally happened. The meme that you sent, Chelsea, was my favorite. Welcome to the Pac-4.
The single most, I think, shaking college football, just transformative weekend.
Yeah.
I think.
Mm-hmm.
I'd put it even up or past when the Big East kind of folded football basically, and they were like, we're just going to be a basketball conference now.
Yeah. But the Big East didn't matter like the Pac mattered. The Pac's played in national championships.
10 years ago, the Pac-12, I'd say 10, 12 years ago, the Pac-12 was on top. You had USC that was still riding their high. You had Oregon.
Yeah.
And
Washington was pretty good.
That was back when Washington sucked, but
yeah.
Well, sorry, they didn't get good until Chris Peterson came from Boise. But
yeah, and then a couple years later,
they had Jake Locker for a while, the Tebow of the West.
No, but I mean, Stanford had Gronk. I mean, you had Arizona doing some crazy things from time to time, like messing up the whole conference. It was
Arizona State, I think of more.
No, Arizona.
Arizona was good for a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a cannibalistic conference for a while. Like, someone would pop to the top of the AP top 25 and then just immediately it was just over and over and over again. So it was getting really frustrating because we wouldn't get our automatic bids.
You guys sound like Oregon fans right now.
Pac was.
I'm just gonna say that the teams you're calling out are the teams that beat Oregon when Oregon was like undefeated or on their path.
Well, yeah,
we're giving them their flowers right now. Okay,
that's what we're saying. Arizona. Wait a second. Stanford was
they
good
were rated like number 2.
Stanford was good for a while, but I'm sitting here and I was like, I had to dig into my memory because I was like, wait, these are both teams that knocked Oregon out of the national championship running during this time.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, but I am in a Discord server with football fans from around the country, and it's actually a pretty tight-knit server. A lot of us know each other. Everyone is just like, I don't even know what to say there's a pretty strong Washington State contingent over there that's just in shambles. There's some Stanford guys that are just like, we don't know what we're doing. Is apparently the ACC wants to bid for Stanford.
Yeah, I will also add though, it was around that time that the Pac-12 or the Pac-10 at the time decided to expand to the Pac-12. They were like some of the first doers of like the expansion, and it's
bringing on Colorado and Utah,
and
Texas and Oklahoma were supposed to come.
Yeah, we voted no because we didn't want the Longhorn Network. And then after Oklahoma and Texas left for the SEC, we had the chance to absorb the Big 12. And we said, no, we're too good for you guys. Your academics suck, basically.
Who is we? Who is we? Because all I'm hearing in this is Larry Scott.
The commissioner and also the Pac-12 presidents who voted no.
Yeah.
So here's the thing. Wes said something that I want to go back to real quick. The Big 12 was originally the conference we all thought was going to collapse.
Yeah.
That was very much originally, especially when Texas A&M and Missouri went to the SEC.
Yeah, they lost Colorado, they lost Missouri, they lost Oklahoma, Texas, and who else did you say? There was like one other.
Was it A&M?
Yeah,
I said Missouri and Texas A&M.
Yeah.
Missouri, Texas A&M
reason to collapse. SEC, they lost 5 of their biggest programs, but they set their pride aside. The Pac-12 didn't.
the Pac-12 ate itself again. As one final act of humor, the Pac-12 ate itself again.
Conference of Champions, academic prestige, and guess what? Congratulations, you bozos.
And now what do we do with the Rose Bowl? I mean, the same question was posited, when
that's going to be the Big Ten championship.
Oh, don't do this to me.
Big Ten West versus Big Ten East at the Rose Bowl.
It's going to be a purely Big Ten championship now. That's all it's going to be. That's funny because they don't have a championship really in the Big Ten. So the Rose Bowl will be the Big Ten championship. That's a great call, Wes.
I mean, if we can bring back the jump around versus shout series, I'm down.
I mean, I'm really sad at Oregon State and Washington State. Like, I'm really sad for them. Like, even though I despise the Beavers at football, I don't want them to fold. I don't want the Cougars to fold. I don't know of any Husky fan that wants the Cougars to fold. And
exactly.
It's always a fun game to go to.
Well, they're going to go to the Mountain West is what's going to happen for the Washington State Cougars and the Oregon State
Which is really terrible for these programs. Yeah. They are so far in debt. And the one thing that my parents taught me that has stuck with me is you never leave your little brother behind. Where your little brother goes, you go. You make sure he is stuck to you
you obviously didn't listen.
I mean, now we're adults, so it's okay. But you always keep an eye out on your little brother. Like, there's a lot of resentment from Washington State and Oregon State.
They are going to keep an eye out from the money. They're going to sit on their hill and watch the Mountain West Conference below in the ghetto.
Yeah, I mean, $3 million a year in payout is going to help Washington State pay back their $120 million debt in 60 years. including interest. That's why I didn't say 40. It's not going to happen. I mean, like, these schools have got to figure something out fast, because they had made all sorts of debt arrangements on the assumption that the revenue coming in from media would be able to satisfy those debt obligations post haste.
I hope the Big 12 picks them up.
Is there
They're not gonna. They've already said that no.
Wait, let's have fun. Is there a more Big 12 school than Mike Leach's Washington State Cougars?
Oh, rip.
I know, but remember that team? Is there a more Big 12 school than that team?
No.
Just throwing the ball all over the field in the middle of a rainstorm in Washington State. We're just going to air raid over. We're just going to throw them to death.
Screw the running back. We don't need the running back. They're not worth anything anyways.
Screw the defense. We're just going to throw the ball. And that is such a Big 12 thought. But also, what I was thinking of here is, you know what schools are in the Big Ten that are going to get this like $35 million payday? It's going to go up, too, because of all the schools they added, right? Purdue.
Rutgers.
Northwestern. Illinois.
Indiana. Okay.
Basketball,
fine. Basketball, fine.
Yeah.
And on the SEC side, Vanderbilt.
So I'm sitting here and I'm thinking of like the best analogy I could think of. And I'm like, okay, this is like being at a dinner table, but like it's like the opposite of an analogy, right? This is like being at a dinner table where you go out to eat at a very expensive dinner, dinner. And all of a sudden the wealthiest person there goes, "Do you want to split the check?" This is like the antithesis of this, because Michigan, UCLA, USC, Alabama, and the SEC,
they
Georgia,
all ordered like $1,000 bottle of wines.
Well, not just that, they're like, "Hey, I don't want to split the check. I'd like to keep my portion of this pie," but they can't. So, do you think that they're like the person, the rich schools now? Do you think they're like the person that's like, "Wait, I just had a salad.
I had a salad and water. I'm the DD. Why am I paying for like this guy's like top shelf Patron drinks?"
No, because especially these first few years, like right after the like 24 season, 25, 26, people are going to tune in for novelty. For like a regular season. Yeah, no,
I think Michigan walks across the field to Purdue and goes, $35 million, you're welcome.
Well, maybe to a Purdue, but
it's true. Like, I'm sorry, like these schools would not make this kind of money, and that's what Washington State and Oregon State are about to experience. Like, damn, we should have fought really, really hard, really early on to keep this conference together, because we were the ones that were going to get screwed because we can't make this money on our own.
So Washington State and Oregon State are not really to blame here. I mean, if anything, like,
oh, for sure.
Have Cal or Stanford even put out any sort of announcement? I have heard crickets from them during this entire thing. Like, I don't even know if they're like watching. And it's not like they're just such big nerds. They have entire staffs of people that are focused on just solely athletics within those schools.
Here's the thing, actually. Lucy
I don't think the president realizes what's happened. He's probably just focused on their next big science building.
Curing cancer.
Stanford is losing their president due to a freshman journalist's expose on fraudulent research. But yeah, cool.
So,
Cal, though.
They have other things to worry about.
Cal has one of the best arts programs in the United States, also considered one of the best schools in the United States.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Cal and Stanford. Two fantastic programs by every measure.
So here's the thing, too. Lucy Rodin, again, brought this up. I want to give her credit again. She said, if you really look at it, outside of football being the juggernaut that it is, Stanford is one of the most dominant athletic universities in the entire United States. Its track and field team is phenomenal. Its women's lacrosse, women's basketball teams are amazing. She's like, everything outside of football, they're fantastic at. But because they're not great at football, they've been eaten.
Yeah.
Women's basketball, fantastic.
And now we're going to see, will the big game move to the East Coast? because like Wes said earlier, we have the ACC. Or was it you, Chelsea? Sorry.
No, sorry. No, I just hopped back on the train.
Oh.
So, okay. So one of the, we're talking about how Purdue is getting, plenty of money off of this, and that's nice for them. But this was supposed to be revenue sharing
Boilermakers.
among a region, right? Like it's supposed to bring like pride and honor and the, you know, to the Midwest. Cool. Great. Awesome. But the other thing that we have to look at in all of this realignment garbage is that when you have actual discussions about Stanford and Cal joining the Atlantic Coast Conference, is not that this is like going to be some rare, okay, maybe 1, maybe 2 games of football season kind of deal, because there are so many other sports where that is not the case. Like you look at baseball, you look at softball, you look at volleyball, basketball. These kids have got to travel all the time. They are not going pro. They are still very much concerned about their exams. They are very much care about their academic performance. This isn't just about, football players just trying to make their next step in between them going pro. The old NCAA athlete tagline is not everyone will go pro. That is a reality. And so we have to be like kind of sensitive and like feel really bad for these students who are all of a sudden being tossed into schedules where half of their regular season might be spent across the freaking country, split up amongst multiple different trips.
And
Can we just like split up football like outside of the conferences? Just keep our old conferences and then make new conferences for football?
Exactly what I was about to say, Wes. You took the words right out of my mouth. Is the solution is football is at this point its own entity. It really is. It's really minor league NFL is college football at this point in time, and it's time to admit it so that we can have regular conferences for these other sports.
Where's my revenue?
No. Even worse than that. Even worse than that. You know what? This sucks for the college athletes that thought that they got to play ball all on the West Coast. Because now, in the middle of the winter, USC has to travel to Columbus, Ohio, which, yay, I guess. And Ohio gets the reward of getting to go to Los Angeles. Who really won in this? The Big Ten now gets to play half their games on the West Coast, whereas the West Coast is like, well, shit, we got to go to the Midwest. Sorry, Midwest. I know you're catching strays here. I know you're catching strays here. But let's be honest. Think what you want about Californians. Their state's a little bit better when it comes to the amenities, the weather, the activities.
Especially in the late fall.
How dare you?
In the late fall.
Who's gonna say, hey, you know what? You know what, fam? You know what, kids? We're going to Ann Arbor, Michigan for vacation, for Christmas vacation. No, it's always, we're going to Disneyland.
There's a reason birds don't fly north. Birds don't fly north for the winter. Oh, but the ducks will. Good joke. I like it. The ducks are going to be getting on that airplane to Ann Arbor, Michigan, like Wes just said, or East Lansing to go play in the snow. All right, so really quick, as we wind down, we'll revisit this, I'm sure, next week as we find out where the dominoes fall with Cal and Stanford and how they're going to be playing Florida State for the ACC championship.
Until Florida State joins the SEC and then the ACC and Big 12 combine.
So we had the return of a legend, or the return of the gymnastics Mac. Simone Biles is back, and she appears to be just as dominant as she ever was. I don't think she went to Oregon, though, Wes. It would work if that was the case. You could have, that was last segment, Wes. It would have worked last segment.
You missed it.
Oregon doesn't even have a gymnastics program. Oregon State does, but
you missed it.
No, I didn't miss it. It just wasn't relevant to this section.
You said Return of the Mac, and there's an Oregon Duck song called Return of the Quack.
I know, and that's exactly what I was telling you, Wes, was it doesn't work here. I was like, maybe I know what I said and what you were playing on, but that's why I said, I don't think she went to Oregon.
I know.
But she is a champion again. And Chelsea, what all events did she placed in the all-around? I know that to qualify for nationals, but what other events did she place first in?
first in the all-around. She placed first on the vault, which was a spectacular vault. Placed first on the floor routine. Placed first on the balance beam. She placed third on the uneven bars, which has historically been her weakest event. But I mean, she still got third. And this is now the Core Hydration Classic. It was previously known as the US Classic, which is still, to anyone who's actually going to reference this, it is still very much the US Classic. But she freaking dominated. And this was not a soft core hydration, whatever. We're not going to give them any free promo because they aren't giving us any money. But yeah, I mean, so Jordan Childs, Leanne Wong, Caitlin Zhang, like there were other really formidable gymnasts who are both up and coming and also veterans, Olympic teammates and such, who were at this meet. It wasn't a slouches meet. And so, yeah, she's qualified for nationals. She's put herself right on track to qualify for the Tokyo Olympics. Kind of shocking. I'm not going to lie. Like, I was like, okay, this is going to be awesome just to see her in action. It'll be, really good for her to just try it. See what happens. would not have placed money that she would dominate. I certainly wouldn't have put money, maybe vault. She's always been really strong at vault. So, but yeah, amazing. Just incredible.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't. I was surprised she won too. I mean, I figured her time off she'd be a little rusty, but
and
one small correction.
Older.
It's Paris in 2024.
Yeah,
sorry, my bad. Slipped.
Tokyo was like 2022.
I know.
What's funny is Wes, I'm so shocked that you weren't all aboard Simone Biles, the Olympic champion, because lately, every time we ask you for your opinion, you're like, America, champions. The champion's just going to win again. The Lakers are going to win the NBA championship. Like, anyone that's won a championship in your life, you're like, that's the one that's going to win.
Bayern Munich. Maybe
I said it on a previous one. I said, good for her, but she is old for being a gymnast. But
for the sport, she's considered old for the sport. Yes,
she's a lady of distinguished age. Okay, she's also like a decade younger than me.
It's a sports thing. I always say, like, the moment I knew I was old, like the moment I was like, I'm getting old, is because I'm sitting there playing Madden, right? I'm playing the video game Madden, and I'm going through, because we used to do an online season with a bunch of people where we'd hop online, we do a fantasy draft where we could put together our own teams. And I'm like, nah, dog, that guy's too old. And he's 5 years younger than me.
All right.
I was like, well, that's it. I have jumped the shark. I have fawns.
Yep.
It's over. But it's great to see her back out there. Obviously, she's another one that people couldn't wait to tear down because mental health happened, which happens to every single human on this earth. And she overcame that. She overcame brief retirement. She's back. She's a champion. She's a core nutrition champion or a core hydration champion. Or for all those U.S. Classic champion believers, she is a U.S. Classic champion. As Chelsea said, that qualifies her for nationals and puts her on track to try to qualify for the Olympics as well. If she keeps dominating like this, I don't see a reason why she wouldn't.
I mean, she'll be in the Olympics.
I also didn't see a reason why a baseball announcer was suspended indefinitely for saying the word slouches on television. I think this is a great place to end. I just will go rapid fire. Chelsea, did you see anything wrong with that video?
All I saw was him reading off the graphic and spitting mad facts about how crappy the Orioles have been for like the last 15, 20 years, which to anyone who has been paying attention to baseball, even just casually, knows that this is a fact. Like, Camden Yards is not a place where it's just been popping every night. Like, no. Come on. So he was just telling the truth, and he just got sent home from work for nothing.
Yeah. What was his name?
Kevin Brown.
Yeah, Kevin Brown. Suspended indefinitely as part of the Tampa Bay race. Was it Tampa Bay?
Orioles, Baltimore Orioles.
Oh, he was on the
Yes,
Orioles?
but he was against, it was
a comment against the Reds.
I thought he was talking smack. He was talking smack about his own team.
Smack about his own team, though.
But not this year.
Facts.
But not this year. He was celebrating this year's team while saying it's refreshing because they've been so bad for so long. But they suspended him.
So I thought he got suspended because he was talking smack about another team. This is even dumber. He was like, "Yeah, we sucked."
About his own
self-deprecating humor. So what?
Sucked. Passed. They're really good this year, Wes. The Orioles are really good this year.
I know
they are. Yeah. Okay, so the Orioles, though, previous to this year at Tropicana Field, were 0-15. The last series win was in 2017. 2020 through 2022, they won 3 against Tampa in 21 games. This is not crazy to be like, wow, we have really stunk it up against this team in particular, even when they were not necessarily great, when they were slouches, because Tampa has not always been great.
What a word.
And yeah.
So stupid.
All right, well, guys, let's not be slouches. Let's sign off for the day. We appreciate you all for listening. As always, you can reach us at the SadFan Podcast Network on YouTube. You can find us at the SadFan Cast on X now. You can find us at the SadFan 12 on TikTok and Instagram. Thanks so much for listening. We will see you all next week.
No way.